Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Maria. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents about the tragic case of baby Emmanuel, Haro, Jake and Rebecca's little 7-month-old baby. Okay, so I know there's been an oversaturation in the news about this tragic event, and I know the details of it could be very traumatizing for people. So if you've heard too much of it and you want to tune away, now would be a good time, because I'm going to get into some nitty-gritty details about what I propose that is not lawful, but at times in our history has occurred under the government and in different states and has been perfectly legitimized to the wrong people. So I want to propose it again. All right. So someone like Jake Haro, who we know may have 4 children, we're not sure about the 2-year-old that was in the house with Emmanuel and Rebecca. We're not sure if that 2-year-old is from a previous relationship with Rebecca, or he hasn't claimed the 2-year-old that has been removed. So we know the 2-year-old little girl, I think it is his, but they're just not saying yet. But we know that the children are safe that he has spawned. So any children that Jake has spawned are safe now. We know that because he's in an orange suit in jail. But he has been in an orange suit in jail before. And I'm not understanding the difference between the pattern in this man and the pattern in a serial killer. Okay, so Jake's been married 3 times. His first wife, he was married to, she actually got a protection order, restricted him from coming to visit their child. Okay, his second ex-wife, Vanessa, gave birth to Jake and her child, who was born with fetal alcohol syndrome. So that child was removed from the home. And then they had Carolina Rose. Carolina Rose was 10 weeks old when she was brought to the hospital with already healing fractured ribs. So they waited. Couldn't hold her head up, brain swelling, broken leg. He nearly murdered Carolina Rose at 10 weeks old. And he pled guilty to willful endangerment and cruelty to a child. But he threw Vanessa more under the bus, saying that, she had substance problems and she got angry when she drank or used or whatever. And it was Vanessa's cousin who came in and took custody of both adopted Carolina Rose, who needs full care. Full care. This little girl will never be able to swallow food, talk, laugh, nothing, because she's got this tracheotomy for life. And she's in the kind of wheelchair where, they got the headrest because she can't hold the head up. And she's blind. And she'll never walk. Never. Unless technology comes up with a prosthesis that at a certain age they can do some spinal work on her and get her walking, she is completely wheelchair bound and what people used to call in a vegetable state. But I don't believe that. I believe she can hear. I believe she can feel the love around her and the care. And so I've never believed that people are ever in a vegetative state. I just don't believe that. The hearing is the last thing to go. And I think if you can hear the love around you and you can hear the support, your spirit can still be fed and you can thrive at whatever capacity you can thrive at. So there is hope for Carolina Rose, renamed Promise. And I believe the vindication for what happened to her and a lifetime of pain and everything that has been taken away from her. She'll never be able to have children. She'll never be able to get married. None of that. Okay. So when we're considering child abuse, I don't think, and I'm coming from a perspective of I was a child protective preventive worker in the state of New York as a social worker, okay, right here in Monroe County. Now, I didn't do it for many years. 2 years. That was enough. That was enough to open my eyes to say there are some people that shouldn't be having children. And they should have cut it off at generation way back there. Okay? So, we talk about generational stuff. Okay? We don't know what Jake's generation is. I've been deep diving into this case, and it's triggered a lot of stuff in me where I know that children were taken away from parents that were extremely overwhelmed, trying to do their best, and the worst of situations came upon them and they took it out on their children, and they were found guilty. And they had some pretty steep consequences, whereas others should have never had their children return to their home, but they were. Okay. So in Jake's case, I'll just call him the monster Jake. He nearly killed his 6-week-old precious little girl. Went to jail for it for a whole 6 months. Got out on parole, broke every parole thing that just probation, probation. Okay, so he broke things on that. He's got all kinds of stuff against him. Meets Rebecca. She has teenage daughter, older children, and she's claiming she's standing by her man. She's in an orange suit now, but she's standing by her man. Oh no, Jake would never hurt anyone. Jake would never hurt anyone, even though she knows he nearly killed Carolina Rose, now renamed Promise. So there's something missing with Rebecca's thinking. Her story was full of holes from day one. The bruise on her eye was from maybe a week before. Bruises don't go away really quick, but when you get knocked out like she claimed she was in front of a Big Five at a sporting store in a parking lot that just so happened to not have any surveillance, and before she went into the store, she could tell that Emmanuel, which means God with us, that little Emmanuel, she could smell something, so he needed a diaper change. So she was going to quick change his diapers. So she did what any mother would do. She pulled him out of the car seat, laid him down on the car seat, the actual seat of the car, and proceeded to get the diapers out to change him. And she heard "Hola," but she couldn't turn. She didn't even have a chance to turn around. She got knocked in the head, and she saw white. And she doesn't remember anything. But when she woke up, her baby was gone. And she ran hysterically back into the store, yelling his name. Okay, so I've heard other newscasters say, why would you be yelling your baby's name in a store as if they're going to say, here I am? Okay, in a panic, a mother could do that. I'll give her that. In a panic. Or she could have been just yelling, my baby, Emmanuel, my baby. She could have been yelling that. Who knows? But interestingly, one of the store employees said she had visited the store earlier and asked if there was surveillance camera. We don't know if that's true. She denied it. Okay. So why would she leave a sporting event where the rest of her family is and drive off with the baby to go get a mouth guard for her stepson who needed one for football. They're out, they're enjoying their family, doing the intramurals, the thing. And that would have been like an alibi for Jake. So they were supposedly at the sporting event for another child. And she decides, I'm going to leave early and go get a mouth guard for my stepson. I'm going to take the baby with me. I believe baby Emmanuel was abused to the point that baby Carolina Rose was. And he died. And they panicked. I believe with my whole heart that he had an accumulation of beatings that he succumbed to. Okay, so he's a monster. The bruise on her eye was already healed. And those of us that grew up with parents that were abused, or we were abused, we know the stages of bruises. We know, oh, that's a shiner. It's going to be with me for a while. I better just get some sunglasses and suck it up or isolate for a while, because ain't no steak going to help that. No ice is going to help that. And when you fall, get hit, you're on the ground, you got scrapes, you got swollen eye. So the minute she opened her mouth, I saw Suzanne Smith. Do you remember Suzanne Smith? I can't get her out of my mind. When I see people lying and but no tears, and that's all I could see was Jake doing the huffing and the puffing. Like, I think Jake was more angry, like, somebody took my baby. But he talked about his baby in the past tense. And he talked about, well, just take care of him, just return him, we won't do it. Mm-hmm. So I knew the second that came on the news, I was like, how does this keep happening? How does this keep happening? But I wanted to believe her. I was like, But everything in my gut was like, no. You're being abused, and your children are being abused, and you're with an abuser. Because he was just standing there like the dummy he is. Nothing going on between the brain. My grandmother had a name for this. It was called the spirit of stunata. It really is a spirit of dumb. It's a spirit of dumb. You could see they've gotten knocked in the head themselves too many times. They've done too many substances. There's nothing there. There's a lack of, I'm going to try to drum up some tears. They might even do a fake cry. If they're a real sociopath, they could do a fake cry. They could actually produce tears. If they're a true psychopath and sociopath, they can. This guy wasn't doing that. He was behind his sunglasses. Please. No, he was thinking, oh man, I'm going to jail again. I got myself with another dummy and I'm going to jail again. Okay. What's amazing to me is that his ex-wife, Vanessa, the mother of Carolina Rose and a little boy, his name, I don't know why I can't remember it right now. I want to say Eli. I don't know why I want to say Eli. Was renamed Carlos. So the cousin of the ex-wife is really taken on 3 children now, because now she's got the custody of the little 2-year-old that was in Rebecca, and it's a good thing to try to keep the children together. Okay. I want to know why he hasn't been castrated. Yeah, I said it. I know, it drums up all kinds of visions in our head of cruel and horrible punishment and eugenics and all kinds of genocide, and that we think, well, nobody has a right to castrate a person or sterilize them, right? Let me tell you, if you really search, you will find out that it's been going on for years with women. That's right. Now, maybe it's more women of color or women of certain cultures, but for years, impoverished women have been given hysterectomies that were needed. Women that were overwhelmed and had a lot of children, women that were considered imbeciles or a little bit had no support in their life, they received early hysterectomies. If they already had children and they were having trouble coping, oh yeah, it does happen, it did happen. It happened through the government, many states, and it was legitimized for women of color that were impoverished. It was legitimized in Peru. It was legitimized. It was legitimized all the way up to Atlanta, Georgia. So different time periods, they've always come after the woman. Some of the men with certain sex crimes, like maybe they couldn't control their urges, were medically castrated in jails. And that's allowed. So there's medical castration where they lose the urge and they can't procreate, and then there's sterilization. Because I don't believe that child abusers always can be rehabilitated, and I don't believe they're always being followed closely. And this case proves that nobody was keeping Jake in check. Nobody was watching. Because why was he with children? He should have never, ever been allowed to be around children, ever. If you have a man that is an alcoholic, they get supervised visitations with their children. If you have a man that has substance usage, they get supervised. What the heck was he doing with a child when he was in jail in a jumpsuit? 6 months for willfully. That means he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was involved in, and he pled guilty. Yeah, oh sure, he blamed the little woman who was drinking too much, probably to ease her pain from the beatings. So it's multifaceted, where you got generational stuff going on. You got a man who abuses women and children and continues to spread his seed. Now, some would say, well, we don't have a right to touch a person's body or do that. That's constitutionally not allowed. Well, as of last year in Louisiana, a judge actually did say, castrate that person. And it was allowed. So there are certain cases that you need to just cut it off. You don't get to create another child and then kind of have, because the energy I was getting from this guy was, I made them, they're mine, I can do what I want with them. Yeah, that's what I got. I really just looked at his eyes and I thought there's nothing happening in there. Spirit of dumb. You've been knocked in the head too many times. And all I could see with looking at Rebecca was Susan Smith. I don't know why I thought Susan Summer. Susan Smith. Oh, yeah. But, I got carjacked. Look, Rebecca's story never made sense. She's going to stand by her man because I'll bet she's been threatened a lot. I think they're going to get a lot more information from Emily Gonzalez. I think her name is Emily Gonzalez. The very first wife, they were only married barely a year when they were 18. I think she's going to have a really good amount of history on him. But again, I'm going to say what I'm proposing is when you have somebody on the books that is taken away. Does anybody care about what happened to Carolina Rose? Promise. Her name is Promise now. She's 7 years old. Does anybody care what rights were taken away from her? The ability to walk, talk, breathe, swallow without tubes? No. Nobody cares. He should have been followed around. There should have been home visits. He should have never been alone with a child. And his balls should have been taken off. Yeah. And if we, as a country, see, the problem is there's an abuse of that too. So now you have people that would go after indigenous people or people of color or culture. So it gets abused. But I say it should be on the books as a law that is allowed for anybody that thinks they're going to have a child and kill them. Is it an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth? No, he's still alive. He's still walking. He's still getting 3 meals a day that he can chew and swallow. Carolina Rose, Promise doesn't have that. Emmanuel doesn't have that. So that's my video. I know. It's kind of outlandish. But I think very necessary in this case. That's all I wanted to say. Have a nice day, everyone. Take care. Thanks. Give me your opinion down in the section there. And I know, it's a tough case. People are very passionate and very angry and upset, and because we wanted to believe this woman for a minute. I wanted to believe her for a minute. And then I wanted to feel sorry for her for a minute because I thought, well, she's abused and he killed the baby. Yeah. There comes a point where child protective workers have to really intervene. Because I'm telling you, in a subtle way, it has gone on. You got fibroids, let's take your uterus out. Oh, you've been in a lot of pain, a lot of scar tissue going on there. Let's take your uterus out. You already have children, you're struggling. Let's take the uterus out, it's medically necessary. It does happen. If anybody's going to tell you, okay, we don't see it on the law, well, it's because women went along with it. They thought their doctors were gods, and they thought, and if you're telling me get a second opinion, watch who you're getting your second opinions from, because usually it's their friends or coworkers. Okay. So what I'm saying is it has gone on by the government, and it has gone on in private doctors' offices. Okay. So that's my video. I think that Jake should lose his ability to ever plant a seed anywhere in the universe again. Thank you.